And finally, sorry to keep Louise mentioned.
The good news is that I am your last questioner, and I will try to be. I have a few very specific questions that I'd like to ask you. Starting with you, Mr. James Murdoch. I know we've been over at length the differences in the size of the settlement paid, the Taylor settlement, and the other settlements of a far less monetary value. Can you just tell me whether or not the Taylor settlement included a confidentiality clause, and maybe the other settlement did not?
The sitting is suspended for 10 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. We've been watching the live coverage, MSNBC's live coverage of the testimony that's taking place in front of Parliament right now, where James and Rupert Murdoch have been testifying right now all morning long since about 9:30. What we just watched there was someone that came up as James was speaking and addressing the last member of Parliament to have any questions, where someone jumped over trying to get, I believe, to Rupert Murdoch. The shot was a little shaky. Then we saw Rupert Murdoch's wife, who was dressed in pink, jump up almost in a blatant defense of her husband. It's still unclear of what happened inside that testimony room. We're going to re-show the video right here, but again, we're trying to get it back loaded up. But again, the last member of Parliament was addressing James, asking specifically about a payout that was given to Gordon Taylor. He is the chief executive of the Professional Footballers Association, whose phone was hacked by the News of the World, by the staffers. Apparently, he received roughly a $1.6 million settlement. During that answer, that's when someone jumped from behind, reaching toward Rupert Murdoch, I believe. Again, I had my head down because I was reading about who Gordon Taylor was. Michael Isikoff is with us, NBC's investigative correspondent. Michael, as we've been watching so far, things have been going along really well. This has been a very transparent and not a very raucous type of testimony that's going on until this moment that we just saw, and it's unclear as we see the video playing back exactly what happened inside that Parliament room.
Right. It's been an extraordinary hearing. I mean, you know, Rupert Murdoch is this almost Wizard of Oz-like figure, somebody you hear a lot about, clearly very powerful, but very rarely seeing in a setting such as this one where he has to answer questions in public. And it was a really interesting performance. Right in the beginning, he interrupted his son, James, right. Very smooth, very suave, Harvard educated, to say that this was the most humble day of his life. But then as the questioning progressed, you saw a defiant Murdoch at times, asked at one point if he felt he was responsible for anything that went on. He answered bluntly no. It was others who were responsible. Said he didn't know about some of the most important developments, including the fact that his son James had approved these out-of-court settlements to settle legal claims against the company, particularly the footballer who got the big settlement of over £500,000, and was very, as I said, defiant at times, not giving much ground, while wanting to give the appearance that the company is setting things straight, that it realized mistakes were made. Very difficult listening to both Rupert Murdoch's testimony and that of his son James, who exactly was responsible for the phone hacking. One more point I want to make. There was some contradictions between what he said today and what he said previously. He said today that he was appalled and shocked to learn just recently about the payments, about the phone hacking of that 13-year-old murdered teenage girl. Yet only a few days ago, he had called the Wall Street Journal and seemed to dismiss almost everything that was going on, saying there had been only minor mistakes. It's very hard to square minor mistakes last week with appalled and shocked today.
Michael Isikoff, stand by for me. We want to go ahead and play the sound from inside the Parliament House where the questions were taking place. Again, the last member of Parliament. There we have it. You see this guy coming up from the left-hand side of Rupert Murdoch, again, the final member of Parliament. was asking a question of James, specifically about a payout to Gordon Taylor when this man comes up to the left of Rupert Murdoch. You can see Wendy Dang. That is Rupert's wife. She's 42 years old, the mother of his two youngest children, Grace and Chloe, jump up and attack the man in the face. He's apparently been taken away in handcuffs. But again, you can see how close he gets in proximity to Rupert Murdoch and the rest of the Murdoch family. Again, James answering the questions there, obviously startled and taken off guard. But Rupert Murdoch's wife jumping up in defense of him very quickly, striking the man. There we have a picture of the guy that attacked the Murdochs, and it looks as if he's got something all over his face. I'm not sure if he was trying to do something. There's something in Britain, I think, where people throw pies in other people's faces. Maybe that's what he was attempting to do inside, because it looks like he's got something on his face, and we didn't see anybody spraying anything. Again, police were quick to cross the room. The bobbies that you see there came in to escort the man out in handcuffs, as we understand it. But again, you can see Rupert Murdoch's wife jumping up. Rupert Murdoch was sitting there listening to his son, who was giving testimony again to the last question that was just started to be asked by the Parliament member that you see standing up on the left-hand side, the female, asking about a payout to Gordon Taylor. Gordon Taylor was the chief executive of the Professional Footballers Association, whose phone was hacked by News of the World staffers. Allegedly, he received this settlement of $1.6 million, but it also included a gag order. However, that member of Parliament was asking exactly how much the payout was. Before James was able to give an effective answer on that question, that's when the man came up to the left of Rupert Murdoch. Again, it's halted the entire hearing which was taking place. We are still waiting to hear from Rebecca Brooks. You've heard her name several times come up this morning, but it looks like, if you see it, he was trying to get a pie in the face of Rupert Murdoch. If we can get that shot back up again, you can see in his left hand he has a tin. Let's see if we can get that shot back up where we had it highlighted, but it looks like he had a tin in his left hand, some type of cream pie that he was going to smash in the face of Rupert Murdoch during these hearings. Again, the man was quickly taken away in handcuffs. We saw in the images that they had of him outside that he had something all over his face. Wendy Dang in the pink jumping up. She is a volleyball player. If I remember correctly, that looks like a spike, but she's known to be a fan of volleyball. Anyway, you can see the pie right there, trying to get in the face of Rupert Murdoch. The woman in the gray, I'm not sure who she is, but she was sitting to the left of Wendy Dang. NBC's Michelle Kaczynski is with us now. Michelle, can you explain, is this obviously some type of protester who's coming in to disrupt this and create a true embarrassment to Rupert Murdoch by delivering a pie in the face?
We guess. I mean, we're basically looking at the exact same pictures that you are, and we're seeing a feed right now from all other sources here in the UK, and it's the same pictures so far. It does look like he had something in a tin in his hand, and then you see it all over himself. So you assume, okay, he was trying to throw a pie possibly in Rupert Murdoch's face. Of course, you never know. Was there something else dangerous involved surrounding that? But there was tight security, of course, going in there. So how he got that much in there, maybe it was shaving cream in a tin, who knows? But we're watching this unfold right now. Pretty shocking after so many hours of testimony. I mean, that's really been gripping not only the UK, but obviously the US and elsewhere as well. For this to happen at that moment, right as they were about to finish up. Right. So, hey, I guess maybe he wanted to hear what they had to say, too, before this broke apart.
Well, we certainly don't know exactly what type of substance was in that tin. Again, this man coming up from the left-hand side of Rupert Murdoch with a tin, a substance in it, looking like he was trying to get close to his face. You see the woman in gray deflecting the man's arm with her left arm and her purse, and then Wendy Dang, the wife of Rupert Murdoch, jumping up and slamming the man in the face. Obviously, there's the images that we see now of the man after being taken out, escorted by the bobbies in handcuffs. You see something all over his face. We don't know exactly what happened to Rupert Murdoch, though, because they cut out to only give us the shot from behind the scenes as opposed to the front shot that we had before. But Michelle, explain, what was the security that allowed people inside this room? I imagine it's a lot of reporters, but was it open to the public?
I believe so. I wasn't there. I'm watching it from inside of our newsroom, so I'm obviously not at that location. So we don't know exactly the level of security at this point. I mean, I would have to ask somebody nearby. But it was interesting watching this. I mean, the entire proceeding was so orderly, very polite, as we all expected. I mean, we really didn't expect it to erupt into yelling or anything else that you sometimes do see on the floor of Parliament, because it was a question and answer, and the questioners, while sometimes they were persistent, they were extremely polite toward the Murdochs and others that testified. Another thing I thought was interesting was when the Murdochs first came in, Wendy Dang Murdoch, sitting directly behind Rupert and James Murdoch, seemed almost distractingly close to them. I mean, your eyes almost drawn to her, shifting around or leaning forward or fixing her hair. But hey, I guess it was lucky that she was sitting so close and saw this coming at just the right moment. She seems to have fought this person off, really.
Yeah, obviously very close in proximity and jumping over the woman to her left to strike the man in the face. MSNBC's Contessa Brewer joins me now. Contessa, I know you were coming in right at the top of the hour to take over for your show and to watch the testimony that was taking place just as the last member of Parliament, the woman standing up on the left there, was asking questions of James Murdoch, and then this erupts. So from what we see, we don't have clarification just yet, but Contessa, from your vantage point, as you're watching this with me, it looks like he had some type of tin with what may have been shaving cream or whipped cream inside of it.
Yeah, we're just being told a white substance, and then we saw that picture of the protester after he'd been taken into police custody, and the protester himself has it covering his face and his shoulders and his neck. There he is behind the glass, and we can see him, his arms now cuffed behind his back in custody of police, and it does seem like we've been told that Rupert Murdoch did get some of that white substance on him. And then, as you mentioned here, Wendy Dang jumped up to defend her husband, and we saw kind of an arm swat there in the video. I mean, the thing is, we've been watching this testimony for the last few hours here. It's been compelling testimony in and of itself, Thomas. And then this has been the attention getter of the day, when you're standing here and you're listening to it, and all of a sudden you hear the whole crowd, all those MPs, the members of Parliament who've been involved in the questioning, erupting audibly and looking with horror. And you can see that reaction from James Murdoch. What's going on here? That was the attention getter, and I think in some ways this encapsulates what the British people are feeling right now about Rupert Murdoch and those involved in this phone hacking scandal.